cluster bombs won't make Ukraine peaceful. The use of explosives was banned by 123 countries, but this did not help Russia achieve its goals in the brutal Ukrainian war. The United States neither benefited from the use of these weapons along with other civil defense weapons in the war in Southeast Asia, nor did the Soviet Union or the United States benefit from them in the Afghan campaign against a smaller enemy. Joe Biden's decision, July 8, Joe Biden argues, is a difficult decision to send missiles to Ukraine. Seems more likely to cause more violence than a quicker Russia campaign that looks like a war that no one else can do to win. Against the background of trying to purify this dangerous weapon, your article on poets in memory of the late poet Adrian Mitchell, Poets' Protective Opinion, today, July 7th, a strong voice is needed. His famous poem, A Lie to Me About Vietnam, attacked the U.S. bombing campaign in the 1960s and included the haunting line, I smell burning, I hope it's just from my brain. They leave only mints and daisy chains. In these divided times and with the Labour Party's new definition of eloquence, the need for a revival of political poetry has never been greater. Liberate Ukraine, but the promise that the ammunition will not be used to save the lives of Ukrainian soldiers in Russia. Ukraine will certainly save its use and exchange information with partners. Ukraine will use these missiles only to destroy our internationally recognized territory. These missiles will not be used on territory recognized by Russia. More than 100 countries have banned fireworks. They usually drop a series of small bombs that can cause incredible damage in an area. Those that don't explode are dangerous for years. Moscow again criticized the U.S. decision on Saturday, calling it another shocking example of Washington's anti-Russian stance. Washington and Kyiv are counting on another magic weapon that will not affect the work of the special forces, and whose purpose and objectives will be clear regardless of its serious consequences, said State Department spokesperson Maria Zakharova said in a statement. Section UXO damage, Sullivan told reporters. However, if Russian troops and tanks pass through Ukrainian positions, hold more Ukrainian territory and subjugate many Ukrainian citizens, there will be great damage as Ukraine is at great risk of the people. There is not enough artillery. Reznikov said the military will not use rockets in urban areas and will only use them to dodge the enemy. Russia, Ukraine, and the United States have not yet signed the Cluster Munition Convention, which prohibits the manufacture, stockpiling, use, and transfer of weapons. Spain, which is a party to the convention, declared that it is against this decision. Spanish Defense Minister Margarita Robles told the public journalist at the protest in Madrid on Saturday, Spain is based on a strict agreement with Ukraine and also has a strict agreement not to send certain weapons and bombs under any circumstances. British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said that the UK has still signed the convention that prohibits the production or use of ballistic missiles and prevents their use. We will continue to do our part to support Ukraine against Russia's illegal and unwarranted aggression, he told reporters on Saturday. More importantly, I mean, when pragmatic diplomacy has proven to be ineffective, terrorist states and terrorists must be combated using the principles of war. Seductive rhetoric is useless. Advancing international peace requires stability and effective international cooperation. I have no reservations about today's advice. Therefore, In the context of Russia's war of aggression against its western neighbor Ukraine on February 24, 2023, the latter with its world socio-political consequences such as rising energy and food prices are entirely within its legal rights and moral values to protect itself and its citizens as a sovereign state, according to Article 51 of the United Nations Charter of 1945. In turn, Russia claims that the basis of its occupation is the demilitarization and denazing of its Ukrainian neighbors, the desire to protect the Russian-speaking people of Donetsk and Luhansk in eastern Ukraine. According to Reuters, nearly 354,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers have been killed or wounded in the more than 16 months since the conflict began. These negative statistics were further analyzed by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, OHCHR, which collected data for the period February 24, 2022 to June 18, 2023, missing 24,862 people in Ukraine, 9,083, 36.5% of this died and 15,779 people, 63.5%, were injured. Of these, 20,073, 80.7%, were killed or injured on Ukrainian government territory, and 4,789, 19.7%, were killed or injured. 3% was recorded in the territory controlled by Russia. However, these figures have been retained as the OHCHR estimates include intense fighting in conflict zones such as Lysychansk, Mariupol, Popasna. Accused of injuries, OHCHR estimates the final figure will be much higher. As of July 4, 2023, the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR, determined that 5,967,000, 94.24%, Ukrainian refugees had fled to Europe and 364,000, 5.75%, had sought asylum. Concerning the prevention of the Ukrainian civil war, substantial military aid has flowed into Ukraine and continues to be provided by the United States, the country's largest military force, the United Kingdom, the second largest military donor, NATO and Western allies. For example, the United States has provided a total of $37 billion in military aid to Ukraine since February 2022. Of this, $10.8 billion has so far been delivered under the Ministry of Defense's Security of Ukraine for the fiscal year October 1, 2022 to September 30, 2023. Assistance Initiative, USAI. In addition, since 2014, the United States, through the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security, has provided more than $42 million in technical assistance and equipment to Ukrainian Special Operations, National Special Operations, to improve their work, performance, and capabilities. Guard, regular forces, petty officers, and combat medical services. When Russia approves of its invasion of Ukraine as a demilitarization, does it oppose the U.S. providing more military aid to Russia's geopolitical trajectory and hence intelligence from the U.S.? Britain is the second largest military aid to Ukraine. £4.6 billion has been committed to date, of which there is a public commitment of £2.3 billion to be delivered in 2022 and the same amount to be delivered in 2023. Likewise, the European Union, supported by the European Peace Fund, promised €2 billion in military support to Ukraine. Western countries and allies that support provide and/or commit military assistance to Ukraine include Albania, Australia, Azerbaijan, Cambodia, and Colombia. Other countries include Colombia, Cyprus, Israel, Japan, Jordan, Morocco, and New Zealand, among others. In summary, there are conflicting geostrategic dynamics in the Russia-Ukraine war. First, as a powerful nuclear power and a member of the UN Security Council with veto power, Russia says Ukraine is in a geostrategic position and cannot be interfered by NATO. Second, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres launched several mediation efforts. On February 23, 2023, the United Nations General Assembly called for an end to the war and demanded the immediate withdrawal of Russian troops from Ukraine. African Union representatives, Comoros, Congo-Brazzaville, Egypt, Senegal, South Africa, Uganda, and Zambia, and Chinese, but for many reasons the offer was rejected by the two warring parties. Third, in fact, the result is a real war between Russia and the USA on the territory of Ukraine. Fourth, interest in peace in the region seems to have been swallowed up by Russian and American aggression. Fifth, the risk of nuclear war is increasing and the war is still going on. Proof of this is Russia's return of nuclear weapons to its powerful ally, Belarus, in June 2023. This in itself is not a reason for Ukraine and its allies to fight only against the Russian aggressors. But when will ideology and politics really win? What is the value of human life? The ongoing refugee crisis and its impact on the country's public and social services? Centennial former U.S. National Security Advisor and Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, in his masterpiece, Leadership, predictably said that there must be a culture in human institutions, states, religions, the military, companies, schools, that helps people get somewhere they've never been, and sometimes they can't even imagine where they're going. Without culture, without competing organizations, the country is less and less affected and ultimately creates distance. So where are the clear leaders in finding a long-term solution to the Russia-Ukraine war? Yes, war is only by definition a legal war against the enemy, but if the unclean crops are the unholy trinity that die and perish every day, how long will the war last and at what cost? For example, on the balance of the obvious challenge of current reality, how does the United States, in the eyes of the international community, justify its right to be the leader of the free world by dropping bombs on Ukraine? In other words, how do real happy people and fighting cluster munitions keep peace in Russia-Ukraine? Clearly, cluster bombs or cluster bombs are weapons of mass destruction. They chased, killed, and destroyed the property. One of the biggest concerns with explosives is that they drop small boulders or small stones over a large area and won't explode during a conflict. The residual and hopeless risk of unexploded ordnance is that they continue to pose a serious threat and risk to civilians and non-intended subjects long after the conflict and war has ended. And lick.